Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. Life can present itself some challenges, and then sometimes we can get a little frustrated with others, and sometimes that can lead to some anger that we may express or even harbor for a period of time. And we've talked about this before. It leads to stress, anxiety, discontentment. How do we deal with that anger? We are going to talk about that today with somebody that helps transform your life through coaching. And it's not just that. She's also giving you the courage to shine, which is the title of her amazing book. It's great to have her back here. Directions for Wellness. We got direction today. It is Sara Regester, our professional of the year on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm really good, Steve. I'm really happy to have this conversation today around anger.
It's one of those things we got things to talk about here today, because we all have anger at one point or another. We carry it. My question before we even begin, and I've debated this with friends, is anger just anger? Or is it, and I'm not going to say often, I'm going to say, is it always something else that's brewing there? Whether you feel disrespected, whether you feel sadness, well, whatever it is, it presents as anger. Is anger something in itself?
I would say yes, in the sense, it's opening a huge vista where we could go in this conversation. And at the heart of anger is fear of the unknown. At the very root of it is not knowing what's on the other side or of whatever we're brewing about. But there could be various triggers, that initiate anger. And it's one of the full spectrum of who we are as human beings, of our emotional experiences. And so what stood out to me when I thought about this topic was because, my former life, I was a cardiac nurse, and that kind of led me into this mind, body, spirit kind of coaching, stress mastery field that I'm in now. And it was interesting to me that in our collective, the number one kind of heart disease, stroke, like the number one affliction that impacts our population is cardiovascular disease. And in a mind, body, spirit sense, anger sits in the fourth chakra where the heart is. So when I saw that connection of if we don't have an effective way to move through our anger or to address it or, diffuse it or take action with it, offer solution around it, we're going to internalize it, and then it's going to harm our health potentially. And
Wow.
so I think that's what I saw the opportunity today is like, oh, let's share this message. Let's explore it.
Yeah, I'm glad we are. And even thinking about the heart chakra and how, what happens with energy clearing, it's stuck energy. And I'm sure anger is definitely one of those things, could be stuck inside there. What is the difference between anger and frustration? Like sometimes we get just so frustrated, and it could present as anger, but maybe it's not.
I would say frustration could open the door to anger, but I think more often anger is because you can't feel like you can fix something, or you feel like you are controlling, or something's beyond your control. Like if you're angry with another person and the choices they make versus frustration. You always open the door to a whole nother angle. Yeah, frustration, though, I think could definitely lead to anger, but I think frustration is more like when you're doing something, feeling unable to kind of see it through or unable to carry something forward. That's frustration. Where I think of anger is probably more like an emotion where there could be betrayal, there could be rejection, there could be something where someone does something and then you go into blame. So it's more, I think of anger where it's externally projected rather than frustration might be an internal, how you're stressing on the inside because of the inaction that's happening.
Well, those examples you gave are perfect in illustrating anger. It comes back to me for one thing. It's at the hands of others. It's at the hands of others. And often it's because you can't control certain things. They've done something, it's out of your control. You're frustrated. What do you have? How you react. You have a choice in how you
Mhm.
react. And I don't want to fall back on that, Sarah, as the catch-all. Well, you could, it's your choice how you react. But I don't see it any other way. And can we get angry if it's not caused by somebody else? I guess you could be angry at yourself.
But that might be frustration.
This is true.
Ha ha ha.
True.
Well, what I know is that where someone gets caught in anger is when you're swirling around in the soup of it and the emotions are churning and the stress hormones are ramping up and this can impact blood pressure and heart rate and that's the cascade of where it can take you down the path of heart disease if this is a habit.
Yep.
But the other side of it is to diffuse anger, it's important that you move through the energy to diffuse it by taking action with it. And so the action is really where the choices are versus not taking responsibility and blaming, expecting someone else to like fix it or own it or something like that. So blame is not productive, but what can I do to be part of the solution to take action with that I'm angry about?
Hmm. What can you do? I mean, it's, understanding that it's out of your control. And I don't get angry. Ah, yes, I do. But I don't really get to that point. I'll get
Mhm.
frustrated, yes. But I found in my journey that when those things present, having dealt with them over periods of time and also saw, my resilience and things like that, it's minimized. Like it's, yeah, okay, this presented. Oh, really? How could you do that? Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Previously, it could go on for a day, two, a week. Now, meow, I don't know, an hour, I'm done.
Yep. And see, that's the key. The finger comes out. That's the key. It's how long are you swirling in this emotion that is imploding within you? And that's called holding with emotions versus I'm feeling this. I recognize it. What do I need to do about this? What do I need to do for myself to move through the way I'm feeling? What do I need to speak up about?
Mm,
Again, not the you did this, you did that, but when this happened, this really didn't work for me. Keeping it about myself, what's in my control, and staying out of blame is part of the conversation around it. But what I recognize in my coaching clients is people will hold, 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 hold it in. And that's really, at some point, it's going to come out like an eruption of a
mm,
complete emotion cascade of like a volcano because you're just going to not be able to hold it in forever. So it's recognizing what am I holding on to? What am I afraid of to take action with this or to take responsibility for my part? Versus the more I see someone is just brooding with it and holding on to it and not speaking up, that's where I recognize an individual needs some strategies. And so for you, you have found, so what would you share with us that helps you go from 2 days, from a week to 20 minutes?
good question. Got to think about that. I think it's the mindset and the refocusing of it. And the initial shock of, again, we are talking here about things that other people do. I've looked at it as it's not going to get me anywhere to keep holding on to this. And I'm not, to be honest, there's a piece of it that's inside. Like, let's say presented, you have the initial reaction, like what the is going on
Volcano.
here? How could they do this? Like, really, you got to deal with this. But I find that an hour or two, depending on the severity of the situation, that it's kind of in the rear view, but there's always a little tiny piece that you're holding on to until you're fully released it or resolved it in whatever way that's going to take place. Um, and I think it's just the mindset. Like it's, and I don't honestly, it's a great question, Sarah. I don't even know I'm doing it anymore.
Mhm.
Like day just goes on, and then I look back, it's like, ah, can't believe that bothered me this morning. I'm not even thinking about it now. I think it's just retraining the mind. That's the only way I can verbalize it.
Well, I think it's a measure of resilience, wisdom, maturity, a lot of factors. And what I can share is that if we have an emotion, a trigger, a negative feeling, and it goes on for longer than an hour, we'll give you an hour. You can have an hour to stew in it, an hour to fret about it,
Okay.
and that's kind of the turning point where you need to let it go. In terms of the longer than you're in that stream of negative anger negative feelings, what's happening then is you're going to lose energy. Your stress
Mm,
hormones are going to be ramped up. And your mindset, you're not in the present. You're stuck in the past about what happened. You're ruminating about it. And many
mm,
times you'll go into judgment, you'll go into attachments about it, you'll go into comparison. It's like it just takes you down a path that is destructive versus, recognizing, okay, you know, I need to take action here to get to clear the decks. I need to get my energy back into neutral state. I need to get into this present moment. What do I need to let go of that actually will help me kind of get back to ground zero neutrality and take an action that resolves this. And so that's where it could be a practice like taking a walk or giving away your negative feelings to a tree, which, trees are very resilient. They can take all of our negative energy and just
mm.
turn it to compost and give it out to, oxygen back in the air. It's about prayer. It's about calling a key friend that you can empty your basket to that's safe.
Hmm.
It's we need to have our circle of resilience options so that we can clear the decks in a more timely way rather than being stuck in these negative emotions that escalate.
And not to be negative about calling a friend, absolutely, but got to be careful in that they're not always telling you what you want to hear or taking fuel and pouring it right on top of your fire. So you ignited it again. And it's good to purge, but you don't want to just do that again. But you said something I forgot about because I find myself doing this automatically now, and that was living in the present. So that was the answer I was looking for. But I'm so used to that answer that I'm on autopilot. And in my journey 4.5 years ago, I met somebody, just kind of randomly met him. And one of the first things that they said was, why don't you ever live in the moment? And that was the refocus for me. Took a little time to figure that all out. And now I try to do just that. And I believe that's the answer. Why, how do I get out of, frustration, anger mode? I just come back to the moment. And I don't even know I'm doing it. I did say that, but that's what I'm doing. I'm just back there with my day. I'm back here in the moment as opposed to worrying about this thing that did happen in the past. If you have anger, it's in the past, right? We have to
Mhm.
recognize that. That's like a key point you brought up, and I didn't even see it.
Mhm. Well, and what you shared is having enough practice of presence.
Mm,
So, if in earlier podcasts, we talked about pause, notice, choose. So, that's a really simple pause, take a moment, drop
mm,
with a breath into your lower belly,
yep.
simply notice, wow, I'm really pissed off right now. And choose, okay, what am I going to do with this? I'm not going to let it ruin my day. Or, how can I clear the decks for myself?
Mm-hmm.
And that's having a conversation with yourself of taking responsibility and finding a solution that's within my control, my options, where often what the trigger might have been is someone is in their own circle making their own choices or whatever it was that happened. I can't control that other person. I can't take responsibility for their behavior if it was something that doesn't work for me, but I can certainly have a conversation of, with open-hearted, non-judgment, hey, we need to talk about this, which is another level of presence.
Mm,
And practice of how we keep those conversations going to be able to clear the decks with another person if they're taking action or saying things that is, very triggering. It it takes a huge amount of courage to find within myself to speak to it so that I can just be really clear that that doesn't work for me. I'm feeling really triggered. This is what I need, or how can we work through this?
Mm.
That's one
It's
level.
when you're in that situation, especially if you're angry at yourself, are we really recognizing that we're angry with ourselves? Maybe we said something. Pick a scenario. I said something, it went wrong. Now I'm got frustration. Like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Is that anger within ourselves? Frustration? Could it be all of the above?
It's all of the above because it's a moment of self-awareness
Mm,
where I recognize that I crossed someone. I said something that wasn't either appropriate or that I knew that somehow had a negative impact on another person. So if I'm recognizing that in myself, then it's my job to reach out and apologize or make amends or, own what it was that I recognize now was not the most shining approach to someone. And that takes maturity. That takes self-awareness to catch ourselves and that would be regret that we could stew in and be in the past in and ruminate in until we know, okay, how can I take responsibility to clear this up?
mm. Take responsibility. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's another one. I feel that when you're angry, frustrated with yourself, it's more of the moment now as opposed to the event that took place. When somebody did something to you and you're angry, that happened yesterday or this morning or whatever it was. You have a reference point. When it's you, it's now, if that makes sense, which I think it's harder to release the anger and the frustration of something you did as opposed to others. Would you say that that's potentially true?
Yes, because it might be triggering the shame, blame, and guilt track.
Ah, okay.
And there you go,
Yeah.
feeling rotten about yourself. And then you go down the track of why did I do that? Beating yourself up. And there it is again, self-judgment, having attachments, expectations about what I should have done.
Mm,
It's a dance. Like to be paying attention enough to how we're engaging with the people around us, with ourselves. But I have to say that life is not always easy. And there's times in our lives where it can be quite internally very challenging. And that's where what I recognize in shamanism is if I just ignore something and I'm complacent and I let it go on and on, spirit is going to knock on my door with a lesson. And very often it comes in the form of a physical affliction or
mm,
some sort of life event that is going to wake us up enough to see what we need to see. And so many of us learn many life lessons through our health, as I did for many years, until I woke up enough to think, okay, there must be another way to learn life lessons than making myself sick and healing myself. And so that's the red flag for myself personally when I'm stewing in something and life like I can't quite see where I'm going or I'm in the unknown and it is frustrating. Where do I go next? What are my next steps? What's important is you could feel frustrated, you could feel angry at life, you could blame life, but I need to own that I'm in the unknown, change is happening, I can't see where I'm going. But
mm.
I need to use my internal resources to keep moving forward, whether it's vision, whether it's prayer, and it's not like God save me kind of prayers. It's the show me the door to open. What are the next steps I can take? So it's like a partnering with spirit about how we're going to walk this together out of this uncomfortable life situation.
You said something that's really standing out for me, and I'm applying it to situations where I may have been frustrated or angry, even in the last month. Little things like, beep, that popped up, beep, that popped up. It's the fear of the unknown. Now, we've talked about that before. It's kind of universal. That is fear. What is fear? Not knowing what's going to happen or how the situation's going to go. That is coming up for me when you're harboring some anger with somebody over something they did. No blame, facts. They did something, it made you angry. But what's there? Ultimately, the fear of unknown. Most often, you feel like you don't have control. And if you can't control something, you don't know how it's going to go. Fear of the unknown. Am I going down the right road with this? It just popped in my head.
Yes, because I can't know what's in another person's life lessons. I can't know what is
Mm,
between this individual and spirit of where they're going with their choices and what they're learning from it.
yes.
Yeah,
And
that's like staying out of their circle, be in mine,
yep,
know what lane is my lane and what
yep.
I can really control for myself, or how I could support another with what I can do that's within my control.
Yeah. I mean, the life lesson, that's on them. I don't need to know. You don't need to know. That's the universe is going to give them whatever they need. But you can't control. It goes back to the basics here. You
Mhm.
can't control things out of your control. So it's almost like release and trust the process, if you will. I mean, I was dealing with a situation over the last couple of days. I don't know how ultimately it's going to go. Have an idea. It was a little frustrating, a little bit of anger, but just frustration. Like, really, all right, we'll take care of this. Um, but I trust it's going to be okay, and that's how I released it. And that's not just a call it a cop out. No, that's true trust based on all the facts. Nah, we're good with that. Move that to the side, on to the next thing, whatever that is.
Yeah,
Just letting it go. I
yeah.
think.
And not only is it trust, it's also patience.
Point.
Cultivating patience, not negligence of not like or complacence,
Yeah.
but patience is a factor of trust. I'm going to wait and see how this unfolds.
Yep.
I need to wait to see what I can do for my step, or I need to see what's going to be the outcome of what just happened that, will be the ripple, for
Mhm.
example. So patience, I think, is another virtue when we're finding our way through these things.
I guess that goes back to what we've talked about in the past. It's the universe's time. You can't change it. It'll reveal. It'll work itself out as it's supposed to in the eyes of the universe. And that's universal time. I don't have a watch for that. Nobody does, right?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is we have time, space, and dimension in this third dimensional reality where we live so that you and I can come together at this specific time and have this conversation.
Hmm.
But in the fifth dimension, there's no time, no space, and it's actually 144 minutes of fifth dimensional time to 1 minute in third dimensional Earth time. So that this is why that there can be a lot more going on in the bigger picture than what we can actually see from these eyes and our own physical experience.
Whoa. Give me that again. How many minutes in the fifth dimension?
144 minutes of fifth dimensional time to 1 minute in third dimension. And so what that implies then is that when you're dreaming at night, your consciousness is in the fifth dimension. So that's why there's a whole lot that happens. But when you wake up from dreams, it's sort of like, how could all that happen in one night sort of thing? When we're kind of getting off track. But there's something, if I don't deal with my anger in the here and now, it's going to spill over into my dreaming, to my sleep. And then I'm not going to feel rested. And I'm going to have like potentially some wild dreams where I'm going to have to hash it out. So
Wow.
there's a bigger impact to carrying our anger that it's a 24 by 7, that what it's doing to your physiology and your body.
And thank you for saying that. Like that's the wake up. Um, digressional point here, but just curious. You talked about the fifth dimension and the time equation. What about the fourth dimension? Do we even have that
Well,
number?
the fourth dimension is the Bardos, where it's chaotic, there's no time, no space, but you don't want to hang out in there because it's more like the crack between the worlds, between the third and the fifth. And so most things that you dream into your life, you have an idea in this third dimension of what you want to create or what you want to change, but you actually manifest it when you bring it in from the fifth dimension through the fourth into the third.
This has
That's how you
been
make change.
an eye-opener for me because I didn't look at it that way or understand it that
Yeah.
way. I saw it more of third dimension, and then next up is the fourth, better than the third. Fifth is where you really want to be. Doesn't sound that way there. It's more of just, pass go, pass fourth, get to fifth
Get to
ASAP.
fifth. Fifth is
Wow.
where it's all happening outside of our consciousness.
Fourth is off my radar now. And
Okay.
I visualized it as we're all in the third. Some of us doing the work, we're kind of crossing over to the fourth. Those of us who've reached where we want to be, we're in the fifth. Okay, final question here. Yes, people, we've gone down woo road.
One woo. I'll say one woo. I'm not woo woo.
Yeah, it's just a woo. Are there people 100% now in the fifth dimension?
Well, we're always a part of our consciousness is in the fifth dimension. We're living our physical reality in this third dimension. That's a longer conversation than we have time for today.
Oh,
But
I
very
know.
simply, you have your senses. Okay, you have eyes, ears, you can touch, you can taste. So there's a part of you in spirit that came into this physical body to experience life. And it's like the gift to the spirit is to have a physical body that you can actually live in this dimension within time and space to make choices, not so good choices, learn your lessons, have your physical experiences. And so there's a part of us that we're like the feet on the street for our spirit that is really advancing our soul in the fifth and above dimensions.
Learned a lot today. And you think I'm kidding when I say this, but I have a break after our show here. I'm going outside and hanging out by a tree. And if you think I'm kidding, I'm totally not. I was going to do it anyway. Now I'm definitely going outside. Need a little grounding here, just to process all of this, but that's all good. Better understanding of what's going on here. Sara, when you work with people, it simply starts with a conversation. Especially if somebody's dealing with some anger, they're trying to, whatever it might be, everything we talked about today, best ways to go to your website.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm very accessible by my email, but the easiest way to drop into my email box is to go to my website, directionsforwellness.com. And from there, the contact button, you can send me an email. That's one
Awesome.
way. Yeah. Otherwise, it's Sara@directionsforwellness.com. And I'm happy to set up a call, have a little exploration, and see if we want to work together.
And for anybody that is listening and not watching, that's direction, the number 4, wellness.com. Thank you very much for today. A lot of validation for me, eye openers, like really cool. Better understanding and looking forward next time we get together.
All right, then. Thank you.
I'll see you in the fifth.
And the fifth.
Yeah, got to go there.
Definitely.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.